It is March 13th, 2016, and I am in Budapest, Hungary. The Trump phenomenon in the United States is very interesting. The leading contender for the candidacy on behalf of the Republican Party in the United States is, of course, Donald Trump. And there have been all manners of controversies surrounding his candidacy. He does not rely on outside funding to bankroll his campaign, but aside from that, he's a very well-known public figure who has been around forever, and he has no edit function, so he says things that other people would not get away with saying, even though they may be thinking these things. And that has caused all types of consternation among the powers that be. Because you have to understand that liberalism is an ideology, is an unstable system. There is a fault line that runs through liberalism, and when that fault line shifts, when the tectonic plates around that fault line create friction against each other, the consequences can be quite interesting. And the way the ointment on that fault line is political correctness, because everybody knows in Europe, in the United States, everybody has been trained that there are certain things that can be said, there are certain things that cannot be said. In that regard, freedom of speech is a mirage. And Donald Trump, with his lack of edit function and the fact that his speeches are mostly unscripted, keeps tripping against the golden cows of political correctness. And again, when the fault line, the inconsistencies of liberalism get activated, you have earthquakes. Now, in the United States, you have a situation where it was a formerly predominantly upwards of 85%, 90% European American country, and increasingly it no longer is. Now, one of the most sacred golden cows of liberalism is the belief that if you demographically redo the United States, you should have no consequences, because the ethnic groups are essentially the same. They just come in different skin colors. Now, that's of course an absurd statement, people are different. There's no reason why different groups of people should be the same, and if in fact they're not the same. And experience shows that this particular tenet of liberalism holds no water. Just experience. But what's happening in the United States is very interesting. Because, first of all, you have a black population, the problems of which that population have never been resolved, and they will probably never be resolved. Trillions of dollars have been poured into solving these problems, and this population is essentially a ward of the state. The criminality, the incidence of criminality is just tremendous. And I suppose that, well, first of all, liberalism would hold that. How can that be? You've already poured trillions of dollars into solving the problem. The problem must have been solved already. Maybe it's just a matter of pouring more trillions of dollars over further decades. Well, after a while you stop, you suspend the suspension of disbelief is no longer possible. You got to face the facts that this population is never going to improve itself, and yet because of liberalism, you cannot blame the individuals comprising this population for the problems that haunt this population. Even if these problems, the violence, the disrespect continues to spill over into other communities. So there's this drive to come up with theories and ideas and notions that would point the fingers for these problems at European Americans, in particular the male category of European Americans. I mean, it's a paradigm that is just completely insane, and it's also very unjust, because European Americans have no control over the fate and the academic performance, the school discipline, the life choices, the achievement or lack thereof of Africans living in the United States any more than they have over the fates of Africans living in Africa. And I suppose in the desperation and powerlessness that liberals feel, and their complete inability to change these communities, they gotta find a scapegoat, and that scapegoat is the big bad European American male, even in situations where the European American male is absent and nowhere to be seen. He's like the bugaboo of liberalism, the source of all evil, supposedly. And Donald Trump, he pays no respect to this system of beliefs, this liberalism. It just says things that just come to his mind. And the problem is that when he says the things that he come to his mind, he's not lying. political correctness lies. Because political correctness is based on lies. You have to lie. You have to protect people's feelings and emotions. You have to tell them things that are not true. You have to tell them things that are completely disconnected from reality, such as, in Hollywood, you always have the scientist in the spaceship being an African, which is just something that just doesn't happen that often in real life. So you have this ideology that is based on a lie, and that lie must be preserved. And if that lie gets challenged, the consequences can be tremendous. I mean, you have earthquakes, essentially. You have fist fights. You have demonstrations. You have Ferguson. You have people in the street. You have fist fights. And you get to that result just by telling the truth and speaking plainly and not dissembling and not telling things that are disconnected from reality with a view towards preserving the comfort of people's feelings. And people are tired, particularly people of European descent. You have a situation where in the United States, in any college, you're going to be asked, in a college application, job application, you're going to be asked your ethnicity. And if you are a European American, you have to fill in the bubble and tell them that you're a European American. And that's going to count against you. And there are all sorts of campaigns by the left of Hollywood is too white and the fire department is too white, the university is too white, there are too many white students. Essentially a race-driven campaign to flush out whites out of their system. And so European Americans, I suppose, they ask themselves, what's in it for me? We have more of these people coming over from different brown-skinned populations around the globe, coming to this country specifically because it is a country where there are whites. And some of the people who are coming over are Muslims who have not only are they dark-skinned, but they also have a religion that is very inamicable with our belief systems. And whose behavior is, you can talk about the criminality of the blacks, but the behavior of the Muslims is just completely out of control. I mean, the way they treat women and children, the way they sexually assault them, it's something just out of this world. So European Americans ask themselves, why are we creating this country? Just so that all these people can come over and turn it into a version of the place where they came from. Does that make sense? And obviously, asking yourself that question is a radical act. And it may radicalize you. And the last thing that the powers that be in the United States want is a radicalized European American community, because then the game for them will be essentially over. Alright, take care, guys.